Hi friends, welcome back to the Saffron Box. In this video today, I shall be talking about the transit of Mars into the next sign of Cancer. So I shall be touching upon the effect of Mars in Cancer, its sign of debilitation, and what effects would it have on all the ascendants. So I'll quickly touch upon all this, but before I begin, let me just quickly remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and do not forget to tap the bell icon so that you get regular updates. Now, if you have to understand Mars in the sign of Cancer, we need to understand what Mars is first of all. Mars is a huge big ball of fire. Mars is energy, Mars is passion, it's your desire. Right, so Mars being a fiery planet, planet of high intensity, of high energy, Mars in your chart shows the kind of energy which you have, the kind of desires you have. And Mars, since it talks about energy, it talks about fire, it talks about heat, it talks about blood. Blood is ruled over by Mars. So what is there which is running throughout in the body? Blood. And Mars basically rules over what kind of go do you have to certain things. How do you take up certain things? How do you take up a challenge? The ability to rise up to a challenge, the ability to face adversity is also seen with the help of Mars. Mars rules over all this. Mars is the Senapati, Mars is the commander-in-chief in the planetary cabinet. So Mars' work is basically to fight out whatever it's coming its way. That's why the amount of what kind of a struggle can you do to overcome an obstacle is also seen with Mars. Mars is very high energy, intense energy. Right, so that is the reason that when Mars energy is seen, Mars is considered debilitated in Cancer and exalted in Capricorn. Now I'll just quickly in a jiffy touch upon Mars in Capricorn, and then we'll come to Mars in Cancer. Mars in Capricorn is Mars, that is fire, in an earthy sign. So what happens here? The energy of Mars, the fire within Mars is contained very well in an earthy sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of hard work, of determination. Capricorn rules over your work, over your karmsthan, that is the house of work. What kind of work would you do? What kind of deeds do you have? So Mars energy is very well channelized in the sign of Capricorn. Right? It's like, if you take an example, it's like putting a very heated item, something which has high heat content into a vessel. And what kind of vessel? So if something is really boiling hot at say 800 degrees, 700 degrees, very hot, where do you put it? You put it in a vessel, or you put it in a place where it can be contained. You can't just put an item which is so hot in any kind of a vessel, any kind of a place, because it just might explode, it just might cause harm anywhere else. So you need a very high density, a very stable material as a container, as a vessel to contain such an item. Right? So Capricorn gives that kind of a base, that kind of a, it contains the Mars energy very well. And Mars hence exalts in Capricorn. Mars is in its office in the sign of Capricorn. The sign of Capricorn also rules over our office, our workplace. So Mars is able to perform there very well. But what happens when Mars comes into the sign of Cancer? It's directly opposite, right? Opposite the sign of Capricorn, we have Cancer. Cancer is the sign of rest. Cancer is the sign of flowing water, river water, coolness, calmness, nurturing, nourishment. Cancer is a water sign. So what happens when we drop fire, a ball of fire, or a very, very high, heated item into water? Steam comes out. Right? So what happens? So they suddenly, they are adverse elements, and then a lot of steam comes out which cannot be contained. Everything goes haywire. And sometimes when we say that fire gets mixed with water, a lot of things can happen. Explosion can happen, especially when fire is unattended. So we don't know the results, it's unpredictable, right? So the same happens when Mars is in the sign of Cancer. Mars being our energy, Mars being our drive, our passion, our desire, when it goes into the sign of Cancer, in some manner, in some ways it is good, but for most of the times, Mars energy goes haywire. It does not know what to do. Suddenly, there's an item which is very hot, heated up, ball of fire, it goes into water. So there's a clash of elements, and this is when the scattering, the frittering away of energy happens. So Mars is not able to understand, this energy does not know where to go, how to spread. But for certain things, like since Cancer rules over our emotions, rules over the free flow of emotions, etc., this kind of energy is good. For those who are like performing artists, for those who are in creative fields, they get a bout of energy. They are able to use this energy well, because they are anyways in a free flow. They are anyways in a they are doing work which requires a free flow of energy, free flow of creative ideas, out of the box thinking. But other areas where you need structure, where you need some discipline, this energy can go haywire. So this is a time when one needs to understand and contain this energy well, utilize it well, be cautious about it, and then get manage your results accordingly. So it's like, in a way, if I put it in some other way, it's like, Mars energy, which is high and bubbling and needs something to do, needs somewhere to go, all energy bursting out all through. It's been put to rest. It's been put in a very contrasting environment, so it doesn't know what to do there. It's the same energy, when if we take an example, since Mars rules over Mars rules over the army, the soldiering, etc. So it's the same energy, while life in the army, life in the forces is very, very disciplined. So till the time this energy is disciplined, till the time everything is structured, like Mars in Capricorn, things go well. But suddenly, this energy, if it's left unattended, it's left without guidance, without structure, it doesn't know where to go. So that energy can take any form, can take the form of some havoc creator also. The same energy can just go and produce a criminal also, right? So that is the difference between the energies. And when Mars in Cancer, when it comes over here, when we see the characteristics of the sign of Cancer, your energy and the typical emotional side of Cancer, they get combined. So one really starts attaching a lot of emotions to whatever they do. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking, you start attaching, your emotions come out, your energy gets into your emotional side. So your emotional nature gets gingered up. And that's when you start thinking, you start using your head a little less and your heart a little more. Because Cancer sign is the area where the heart, part of your heart is also seen from here. What you have within your heart is also what Cancer rules. So this kind of an active energy getting into your emotions tells you that you need to, it keeps pushing you towards attaching emotions everywhere. So even if you are a person who uses their head more than their heart, you tend to digress a little bit, you tend to put your emotions, you tend to think and feel a little more. So your feelings come out, whatever you do, you start feeling more about it. And if we look at the impact of Mars in Cancer for all the 12 ascendants, I'll very quickly go through the impact. Um, if you look at the sign of Cancer, this combination, Mars is coming into the fourth sign, into the sign of Cancer for you, so your fourth house gets impacted. So what happens? You attach a lot of emotions to land and property matters. You start getting very emotional about your mother, and this emotions, this kind of emotional nature may not be required. You may be getting too overly emotional, too emotional about things. Mars also rules over land, over property, right? So you might be getting too emotional about your house, about your property, and you could be making certain decisions which may just be very impulsive. So you want to sell a house, you want to purchase a house, you want to do something about it, you start putting energy very impulsively. So it's time to think deeply. Do not be very impulsive on your decisions regarding land, regarding property, regarding vehicles, right? So that is something which you need to keep in mind. Then if we talk about Taurus ascendant, for Taurus, this combination comes in your third house of short journeys, third house of neighborhood, of your siblings, right? So what happens is that you might get a little too emotional about things, a little too emotional with your siblings, a little too emotional about your communication, and that may not be required. So you need to keep a check on how you're communicating, how you're dealing with your siblings. In case you are undertaking any short journeys, then you need to be very careful about driving. If you're driving down, you need to be very careful. Be very careful about not getting into any kind of a trouble while during the course of your journey also. Then comes the sign of Gemini. For Gemini, this is happening in your second house of wealth, of money, of speech. So you might get a little too impulsive with your speech, a little too impulsive with your wealth. Do not, without any professional guidance, especially during this time till the transit is around, I would advise you not to take any major financial decisions without professional advice. So take it, but take it professionally. Take professional advice and then make a decision regarding your investments, regarding your savings, regarding your wealth. This may also be a time when you feel too emotionally attached to your family. So let them be, give people breathing space. Then comes the sign of Cancer. For Cancer, this is happening in your ascendant itself, in your first house. So this could be a time where you see a spurt in your confidence levels, in your desires. You feel that you can achieve a lot and you can achieve this, whatever, So you try to put in a lot of energy. This is a good time if you can channelize this energy very well. But otherwise, if you do not think, if you're not level-headed about thinking how to manage your energy, how to manage things around you, this could be a time where you feel overly confident, where you feel that you can achieve a lot more, but you may not be able to do so. So keep your confidence levels under check. Then we have Leo. For Leo, this is happening in your 12th house. 12th house is the house of expenditure. 12th house, the house of pleasures, the house of intoxication, of getting, of spending yourself. And a debilitated Mars over here is not a very good sign. So be careful about how you are expending money, how you're expending your time. Stay away from any kind of intoxication, any kind of a bad habit which is not good for you. Do not indulge yourself too much into pleasures also, right? Then comes the sign of Virgo. For Virgo, this is happening in your 11th house. So you put in a lot of your energy in your social circle. You put in a lot of, your time, energy and emotions over there. But be a little careful because, when we're talking about social circles, any kind of male members whom you interact out here with, you need to weigh them, you need to check them out, understand what they want from you, and then take a suitable decision, then mingle more with them. So a little, if you be a little on your guard in your social circles, that will be better for you. Then comes Libra. For Libra, this combination comes in your 10th house. 10th house of work, 10th house of your name, fame, status, reputation. So, while Mars is here, you could feel very emotional about how you are being perceived, how is your status at work, what kind of reputation have you got, what is your relationship with your boss. You might just feel emotional about that also. So, this could actually have an impact on your daily work. So, do not be too emotional, do not take things to heart, because this time is going to pass, within a few weeks, and thereafter, if you be very emotional about things, you might just regret what you've said, what you've communicated with others. So, whatever you do, think through your head more than your heart, at your workplace also. Then comes the sign of Scorpio. For Scorpio, this combination happens in your 9th house. So, you could actually be taking up long journeys. You might actually be making decisions regarding some higher education. There could actually be, circumstances which come up which actually make you question your belief, you question your principles in life. So while whatever you do, everything changes with course of time. Whatever we believe in today, we may have to make a shift in our beliefs. We may have to make a shift in our thinking in a few years' time, because things around us change, circumstances change, people change, and so shall we. So do we. But do not be too stuck up on your beliefs. Do not be too stuck up on your ideas, and be kind of flexible on how you want to go about things. For Sagittarius now, this combination occurs in your 8th house. So for 8th house, this is like a malefic going into your 8th house. Though it perks up your desires of your inheritance, of any kind of windfall gain, this is also a time where you need to be cautious about your health, any kind of falls, accidents, injuries. The relationship you have with your in-laws could come under question. So, there could be issues which you deal with which are unpleasant, So, deal with all these issues with a straight head, with a balanced mind. Do not get very emotional, because there are high chances of you getting emotional out here with all these issues. Now, speaking of Capricorn, for Capricorn, this combination comes in your 7th house. 7th house of spouse, your marriage, your partnerships. So you tend to get overly emotional about your relationship with your spouse. Sometimes you just might get too sticky, too possessive, and too trying to control what your spouse is feeling, thinking. That could actually create trouble for you. So give some breathing space to your spouse. You also, take some time off, deal with things. If you've been dealing with some relationship issues, if you've been dealing with any kind of a trouble, any kind of problems in your marriage, this is a time to cool off. Don't get too overly emotional. Don't get too judgmental about your partner too. Then comes the sign of Aquarius. For Aquarius, this combination comes in your 6th house. So you deal with a lot of 6th house matters, like any kind of a disease, any kind of a litigation, any obstacles, any problems which are coming your way. You got to, deal with all of it. But while you deal with all of this, do not be too emotional about things. Do not spend more than necessary time on all this, because this is a temporary phase. Then comes the sign of Pisces, the last sign. For Pisces, this combination occurs in your 5th house. So this could actually, put you into emotional situations with your children, with your love interest. You might get too overly emotional. You might get too pushy about, with your children, too pushy with your love interest, trying to take a relationship forward. So need to, keep a check on your emotions, need to keep a check on how you're dealing with the people around you. But though this is a great time for you to spend time in your creative pursuits, so you have any creative interest, you're in the creative fields, this is a great time, this is a very good time for you to follow that, put your creative energy into use. Right, so that is all about Mars in the sign of Cancer. I shall see you in my next video very soon. Till then, goodbye and take care. Bye bye.